from Reimagine Your Normal. So today is a new video about my year-long journey. I wanted to talk about a little chaos. So I love listening to NPR, especially Hidden Brain. It talks a lot about psychology and stuff. And the video or the podcast that I listened to today was talking about how a little chaos is okay to have in your life. They brought up a story about a man back in the 70s who was really good at playing the piano. He had a lot of the skill for it, and he would set up concerts where he would just kind of play like impromptu. I can't think of the word for it, but he would go in and just play whatever he felt like playing on the piano, but it always had to be a perfectly tuned piano in good condition, all that stuff. And it happened to be that night that he went in, the piano was horrible. It was way out of tune. It was old. You couldn't play half the keys, like a whole big section of the keys you couldn't play. It wasn't very loud. And the lady who was putting on the concert was actually 17, and she was like, please, you have to do this. There's all these people here and whatever. And she tried everything she could to get the piano fixed or a better piano. And he was ultimately just stuck with that. So what happened is he ended up playing the piano, but he used his skills and what he knew to it's a very chaotic sounding song, but it's a really nice playing song. And it actually they recorded it, him and his manager recorded the song as a way to be like, for future people, hey, this is what happens when you don't have everything all set up correctly and whatnot. Like, it just sounds like utter chaos and it's crappy. And what they recorded was amazing. And it's like, I think the podcast said it was like the #1 solo record of all time. And it was made in the 70s. And what it was is, like, he had to pound on the piano keys in order to hear it right. And he had to use some of the more bass tones or the more bass keys to get it to be more loud. And it's such a beautiful song. And they were talking about how they used that story to go into a more scientific example of how they use like algorithms to continually improve stuff, which they said that the piano guy was doing, where he was a perfectionist. He was trying to always continually improve by little pieces and stuff. And they were saying that computers will do that, where they're continually improving, but it could only get so far. You need kind of a jolt, I don't remember what they called it, but the chaos of the computer, or the chaos of the piano not being right, the keys not all working and being out of tune and whatnot. And there was a study they did. It was called the Messy Desk Study, where they had 4 or 5 experiments. The first one was where the person came in and they did their work. They did like the emails and office work, all that kind of stuff, in like a very plain environment. And most of the people were okay with that. And then the next experiment they had, where they had like potted plants and posters on the walls and things like that, and people enjoyed that much more. And then the third experiment, they let them do whatever they wanted. They could arrange the desk however they wanted. They could take away the posters, take away the potted plants, add more of those things, however they wanted to do it. And it showed that the people were the most satisfied then. But then in the fourth experiment, the experimenter came in and took all that away. Took away the potted plants, the posters, all that stuff, which were basically back to experiment 1, where people were like, okay, but now the people were mad. Like they hated the experimenter. They were very dissatisfied in their job. They hated that sense of control taken away from them. And it made me think about diets. I know, totally shocking, but it totally made me think about diets. Why do we hate diets? Because all of a sudden we have all this control taken away from us, and we have no autonomy anymore, and we have to live by all these specific rules. And so when we are off the diet, we don't have it anymore, so we love it. So it made me start thinking about intuitive eating is just that much more awesome, because they're guidelines, kind of just some principles, kind of like with the third experiment, where you can add some more potted plants, or you can add some more posters, you can add pictures, whatever you want. That's kind of like with intuitive eating. You can, add more vegetables if you want to, or or add more fruits or add more sugar, whatever it is that your body is craving. Just kind of listen to what works for you. And I kind of wanted to point that out. I thought that was kind of neat. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. I thought that was kind of neat. It's funny how when you look at stuff, you hear things, like your frame of reference kind of forms the thing you're listening to. Because like before I had found intuitive eating, I would have just thought they were talking about chaos, and how like having a messy house is okay or whatever. But to like bring it back to food, I think is very important. I think there's a lot of psychology when it comes to food and how we interact with food and how we interact with the control over food is a huge thing. That's a huge issue. I know a lot of people like diets because of all the stuff that it tells you what to do, just because you feel that loss of control because your waistline is getting out of control. You just feel out of control, so you like having the structure of the diet, but it's the wrong answer to the right question. I think definitely you need to figure something out. The way that you're going prior to the diet wasn't working. That is clear, but I don't think having such strict rules and strict control over it is the answer. I think it's getting into tune, maybe learning some more. I think I said it before where diets are like the kindergarten stage of ABCs 1, 2, 3s, and intuitive eating is more at the graduate level where you're really getting in tune. You're having the philosophy behind it, the science behind it, all that stuff where you're really truly learning how to do everything so that you don't have to go back to a strict schedule of, okay, what order are ABCs, and you have learned it. You don't need to keep going on these crash diets or doing these diets. Like, you can just live in a constant state of satisfaction and knowing what you're supposed to eat and why you're supposed to eat it. And you don't have to do that yo-yo dieting thing where you balloon up and then you drop down, and you can just always be in this comfortable state of being in your body. So I kind of wanted to point that out. I see symmetry with that kind of stuff all the time when I'm listening to my podcast that I listen to every day. So I encourage you to listen to podcasts, to educate yourself, to always be educating yourself. Always learning new things. Definitely always be learning about things that interest you. Psychology interests the crap out of me, so I'm always listening to that kind of stuff. And if you also like listening to psychology stuff, I highly recommend Hidden Brain. It is a very, very good one that gives ideas throughout different realms of your life. I mean, this one had to do with chaos and pianos and desk experiments, and it started to go into political stuff, and that's when I was like, I gotta get on to the video and talk about this because I'm so pumped. And I turned it into a food thing. Who knew? So absolutely, always be pushing yourself, always be striving to be better than you were yesterday, and until next time, thank you.